hearts will find you. Some would say it's not a matter of time. Come and see what they mean. Come close to me. It's the matter of your mind. They sit by your window, waiting for your voice, ready for your voice, resting till the moment you would pick up your head, look outside your life, start believing, start receiving.
Good evening and welcome back to the channel. It's been a while since we did a live stream. Markets have dropped dramatically over the last few days. Sentiment is back in the gutter and everybody is calling for a bear market. It feels like we're back in October, November time. It feels like we've gone back in time. Sentiment was very bullish after Christmas, after New Year. Bitcoin was getting up to that 95k level. We did get a close above it and then we dropped back below. Currently trading around $88,300 and everybody thinks it's all over. Once again, we are back. So tonight we are going to discuss some members questions from CC Pro. If you don't know what CC Pro is, it's a private members Discord. We'll cover it later. We will also talk about the market, my kind of theory or how I think the market's going to play out this year. I guess ground rules for the stream is, it's a probability game. We're calling it as we see it. We've remained bullish this whole time. Not necessarily bullish in that something's going to happen tomorrow, but bullish in that altcoins will have their day. There will be a run, and I think everybody called it wrong in 2025. I think it's fair enough to say, me in particular thought 2025 was going to be a very bullish year. We had Trump, the crypto president, all this regulation. We did have a Bitcoin all-time high. Bitcoin had quite a successful 2025. Bitcoin's last all-time high was in October. So it's not like Bitcoin never made an all-time high and we just traded sideways all year. Bitcoin did run up to 126k in 2025. So was it that bad a year? Probably just feels worse because, like everybody watching, we're allocated very heavily to altcoins. For me, 2025 was a strange year in terms of everything pointed to being bullish, but nothing actually ended up happening in the markets. I firmly believe that won't happen again in 2026. I think the 4-year cycle's broken. I think that's healthy, but we do have the midterms coming this year. And all the signs are starting to show that the Trump administration is going to run the economy hot. We've got 4% GDP for Q3, 4% GDP for Q4. Very healthy growth numbers. Inflation starting to fall. A new Fed chair this year. And, Trump's made it obvious that he wants rate cuts. So I think all signs point to a very bullish 2026. And yeah, let's dive into some questions. We're probably not going to look through every single chart because, we just dropped below 90k for Bitcoin. Altcoins aren't going to look great, but we can touch on a few. If we look at Bitcoin, it dropped about an hour ago, maybe less. Hit 87.3. Back to kind of this low here from 31st of December. We've now retraced the yearly open. I don't really pay too much attention to these things, but apparently that's a thing that always happens. I don't really pay too much attention to it. But what I would say is we've done it already. So we've done it within 3 weeks. Is that bullish? Is it bearish? Anyone's guess. It's 3 weeks into the year and people are already calling for the yearly candle. So let's have a look at XRP. XRP's probably struggled the most. This is quite a bearish candle here, testing the underside of this 197 level. It does probably signal that XRP could go lower. I said before on stream, I think this line here, around 161 would be the downside target. Solana on the weekly, back to this 125 level. This 125 level is a bit of a magnet for Solana. I'd like to see it hold. I think it probably does hold. Failing that, then I would set some buy orders around the 103, 104 level. If you get an entry at 103, 104, I think you're going to be buzzing with your entry in the months to come. Let's see who's all in the chat. So we've got B-Don, we've got Nix, Alexander, we will talk about Borg, I'm sure, Sean. We've got a few regulars in. We'll cover Alexander's question first. So, are you bullish on there being a rate cut this month? I think it's a hard one. Let me see. I think my screen's went a bit funny. I think for some reason we have zoomed in on the screen. There we go. Alright, let me try and get my screen to fix, because it seems to be playing up. Alright, I think we're sorted. Somebody let me know if the screen looks alright in the chat. Seems very zoomed in. Right, let's crack on anyway. We could go through it. Hopefully the screen stops jumping about. Not entirely sure what is going on with it. So, Alexander says, are we bullish on rate cuts this month? So, to be honest, it's not that I'm bullish or bearish on rate cuts. What I more think is the Fed is massively behind the curve. So let's pull up the chart. The Fed should be cutting rates. Inflation or trueflation is now down below 1.5%. That signals to me that inflation's fallen like a stone. One of the biggest reasons for that is oil prices. Oil prices continue to stay below $60. That is bullish for QE. It's bullish for rate cuts. On top of this, the Fed continues to say its mandate is all about inflation, not it wants inflation down below 2%. Well, based on this trend, inflation is coming down. So I think the Fed is massively behind the curve. I think, could we get a surprise cut? 100%. One thing you do know about Jerome Powell is he doesn't surprise markets. So if we still look at this situation going into next week, we won't get a rate cut. Fed don't like to surprise the markets. They like to tease information out. Now, in September 2024, going out in the meeting, it did look like this. And on the first day of the two-day conference, there was a leak to the New York Post, and that changed the market. So watch out for that. I still think they should cut. I think all signals and all data points to the fact that there should be cutting rates. They should be cutting rates a lot faster. Rates should be down, I would say, starting with a 2, not a 3. But Powell has a legacy to protect, and his legacy is going to be that he fought against Trump for month after month, regardless of what he thought was right for the economy. The economy needs some stimulus. It needs a bit of QE, and I do think that the markets would welcome rate cuts. So let's jump out of CC Pro, and I'll go through some of the questions that came in today. There was actually quite a few. So let's start with Fred. Fred is the biggest strategy bull. I love it. He's the most bearish person, but he loves a bit of strategy chat. So he says, thoughts on Trump taking over strategy. What's stopping him taking over strategy? I don't think there's anything that you can say why he wouldn't take over a percentage of strategy. I think the US government took a stake in Intel. It has a strategic gold, oil, water reserve. I think it has a strategic Bitcoin reserve. If they took 5 to 10% of strategy stock, I think that would be a strategic move. I think that would be a very smart move for the American economy going forward. Not only does the American government and the US taxpayer have an exposure to Bitcoin then, but also it stops someone like China or Russia or somebody that you don't want owning one of your biggest strategic assets to own a large portion of. Whether we like it or not, Strategy owns over 700,000 Bitcoin. Strategy is now comparable to JP Morgan, similar to what happened in 2008. You could class Strategy as a globally significant institution. The US government taking a stake in that makes perfect sense to me. And one thing I would say is, so obviously in CC Pro on Twitter, I've seen so much hate for what Trump's doing, right? So regardless of what you think, whether he's right or wrong with what he's doing in Venezuela or Greenland, what he is actually doing is he's securing some like mission critical resources for the US for the long term. The US cannot compete with China if it doesn't have rare earth metals, oil, silver, cobalt, all these minerals that are in Venezuela and Greenland. So whether you like it or not, and I don't really care, like I'm not here to be pro-Trump, but the argument against the UK government is always that we should be drilling in the North Sea, we should have a sovereign wealth fund, and if we did what Norway did, we'd be way better off and we'd be wealthy. Well, that's what Trump's trying to do with Greenland and Venezuela. Okay, there are other people's nations, right, fine. But there's like 50,000 people that live in Greenland, and Venezuela was run by a dictator. So the Venezuelan people are better off now that Maduro's away. Greenland people, there's 50,000 of them. Are they going to be better or less well off if America takes over Greenland? Absolutely not. On top of that, Greenland is strategic importance to the US because it is the easiest way to be attacked by Russia. And with the melting of the polar ice caps, Greenland becomes strategically important. So whether you like Trump, whether you hate Trump, whether you blame him for everything, whether he's the worst person in the world, what he's actually doing is trying to secure resources for the American economy to be able to at least stay within sight of China. China is so many years ahead of the West. They have more energy, they have more AI, they have more tech, they have more people, they have more resources than any other country in the world. Without doing some mental stuff that Trump is doing, America's just going to fall further and further behind. And that becomes a big problem when we move into the world of militarization in an AI world. The next war is going to be fought through cybersecurity, drones, and robots. Well, if you can't build all three of those things because you don't have the minerals, literally, that becomes a big problem. And that's what Trump is trying to do, whether you like it or not. And I'm not here to say one thing's right or wrong. However, I do hear counter arguments that people want the UK government to look after UK people, start drilling the North Sea, start generating its own energy, start doing all these things. It's kind of what he's doing in the continent of America. So I think people just need to zoom out and look at what he's actually trying to do, and it's actually a benefit to America long term. Whether it's good in the short term, bad in the short term, who cares? He's trying to shore up their defences and make their economy fit for the modern age. So, back to the point. Yes, I think he should take over strategy. I think he should take 10% in strategy. I think it would secure the success of strategy long term. It would secure the Bitcoin. It would give the US exposure to hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin, and it would benefit the US taxpayer long term. So I'm not pro government's taken over companies, but he's already taken over some of Intel. He's taken over a few other companies. Why not? Yeah, it secures the Bitcoin against somebody like China. Let's see. So I think JJag and CC Pro, you actually had quite a few good questions, I'm sure. Let me find them. God, the chat room's popping today. Right, let's see. D-Mitha asked, now that we close the CME gap, will we start flying? The answer is no. CME gaps, normally we fill them, we bounce around, sometimes we go a bit lower, and then we move higher, maybe a week from now. Let's see. Usman asking about money printing. Yeah, 100% there's money printing coming, and I'll show you why. It's all to do with yields. So it doesn't really matter where you are in the world. Yields in the US are down a little bit today, but you can see they have been trending up since October. The 30-year and the 10-year. 10-year actually gapped up this week, so that's pretty bad. Italian yields up again this week. The 30-year yield in the UK is down slightly, but it's still at the highest level since 1998. Germany 10-year highest level since 2011. Canadian 10-year highest level, take out this period, since 2011 as well. And then Japan's just an absolute basket case. Japan is completely vertical, trading like an altcoin. The reason this matters, and the reason why people need to pay attention to what's happening in Japan, is that the only answer to this eventually is governments around the world are going to print their own currency and they're going to buy their own debt. Because the problem you have when yields go up, the value of the underlying bond goes down. Banks, pension funds, large institutions, large companies buy these bonds and then borrow against them. Well, if you borrow against something, the value drops by 50, 60% over 5 or 10 years. The collateral now doesn't exist. And that's where margin calls happen. That's where insolvencies happen. This is what collapsed Greece. This is what collapsed Northern Rock in 2007. This is what collapsed the Lehman Brothers eventually. Stuff like this. This is on a government central bank scale. And the only response is massive money printing, buy your own debt, force the yields down. And that's what Japan have been doing for years, basically, at this point. They've been suppressing yields. And only around 2022 did they start relaxing the buying of their own debt, and the yield just spiked out of control. This whole period here, they were buying their own debt. They'll all go back to it. And what's going to happen is it's going to be like COVID. We're going to have massive stimulus, but on a coordinated scale. So we're going to have Japan, Europe, we're going to have Britain, China, America, Canada, all printing money at the one time. And it's just going to be massive fiat debasement. If you're a saver, if you have cash in the bank, you're going to get absolutely destroyed. And that is why gold is going parabolic, because central banks need hard assets because they know their currency is about to basically collapse. It's just a fact. None of this is opinion. This is just facts. This is literal facts. Let's have a look through more questions. I'm trying to find JJax because he actually had some pretty good questions today. Like, they were detailed, but here it is. Yeah, he's giving me bullets and everything. Hopefully he's on the stream. If you're on the stream, JJax, drop a comment. So, JJax says, where does the certainty come around liquidity this time? Given Trump's behaviour, there's no guarantee it'll happen, given almost every week he creates a huge storm. Okay, so first off, I've kind of explained where a lot of the liquidity is going to come from. Second off, this Bitcoin sell-off is nothing to do with Trump and Greenland. This sell-off is to do with Japan. Japan is having to sell stocks, US bonds, anything it's got to pay the massive margin calls. That's what happens when their interest rate rises. They sell dollar-denominated debt to pay it off. So that's why the markets are shaking. That's why they're selling off, because the liquidity from US dollar-denominated assets is being sucked out of the economy to basically backstop the Japanese government. Nothing to do with Trump. It goes on to say, CC Pro have regularly said events following this we are bullish, then another incident happens. Yeah, you're totally right. The shutdown, QT ending, and the Genius Act, they're all bullish. That's the thing, is it is almost like a pressure cooker. There is so much bullish stuff happening, whether it be QE, rate cuts, the Clarity Act, the Genius Act, the pro-crypto president. All these things are massively bullish long term. For me, right now, it's just a case of when, not if. Unfortunately, that's impossible to predict. The liquidity is coming. We're already seeing central bank balance sheets starting to grow. The US central bank balance sheet, that's M2, so that's money growth starting to rise. And where's the US central bank balance sheet? Here it is. You can see started to rise, came back down into January. That's because it's tax season. So once that's over and done with, this will start rising. We'll break this high in the next 2 weeks, I would imagine, and then that's it. It'll be on an upward trajectory from there, and that's where the liquidity is coming from. And that's why we got this little boost into the start of January, was just that liquidity ad. We've obviously seen it removed over the last couple of weeks, tax season. Once that starts rising again, we'll see a flood of liquidity in the markets. I think so. Scottish Kyle says that, could the Greenland situation be bullish long term? Yeah, I think so. I think a couple of reasons why. One is, if America gets its hand on these key resources, it means it can absolutely boost the AI build out. The AI build out will bring down prices of goods, services, and that'll bring inflation down, which in turn allows them to print more money. I've said for maybe a year, 2 years, that I firmly believe that one of the big agendas of governments around the world is that they're betting AI is going to bring prices down so they can print currency till their heart's content, basically. The idea being that if they suppress price inflation using AI to drive down prices, they could just print the currency willy-nilly. And you have to remember two things. So everybody thinks money printing equals inflation. It does, but money printing doesn't always mean price inflation. So price rises might actually be offset by AI, but they're still going to print loads of money. We're still going to have M2 supply growth, which is going to lead to the debasement of your pounds and dollars, yen, whatever you save in. So that's what I think is going to happen. And I think governments will just gaslight everybody by saying, see, there's no inflation, but at the same time, your pound or dollar will be losing tons of value. But they'll use AI to drive down prices. You look at what Amazon's doing in the US. They're replacing 600,000 warehouse workers with robotics. You've got robo-taxis. They'll be launching in the US. They'll drive down the price of everything, basically. Once you have robo trucks, delivery prices will go down. 5 to 10 years from now, you're going to have robotics doing majority of manual labour, majority of big projects. And then you just look at what's happening in businesses. If you were hiring a researcher today, just go and train AI to do it for you. All right, let's see what other questions. Somebody asks, how do we research projects, metrics, resources? I think one of the big things with projects is I think you need to understand where it's coming from. So looking at the team, what they've done before, what they're trying to achieve, how much they're raising. Ultimately, crypto is full of people trying to scam people. Trove this week raised 11.5 million. That value was gone within seconds. They rug pulled it. So I think you need to be very careful. Yeah, I think you need to be really careful with projects that you're investing in. I think looking at the team. I also think looking at what they're actually trying to achieve. If you go back 2 years, you probably wouldn't have thought AI would have had as big an impact it has already. There's a lot of AI projects out there just now. Most of them are going to be obsolete by the time they actually build anything because AI is progressing so quickly. So, yeah, I would look at tokenomics, valuation, lockup terms is a big one. Do you get your tokens anytime soon? Anything with a big cliff or vesting at this stage, I wouldn't be touching. And then where they're going to be listed, like centralized exchanges are just absolute scams. So I would be very careful with that as well. Let's see. I think so. One question that keeps coming up. Put VeChain on the screen just because I get a lot of questions about VeChain on streams. You can see it's now filled this wick from the 10th of October. That's pretty bullish for me. Most haven't. So yeah, I think that's pretty bullish. But one of the user Ash has just asked about VeChain as we speak. I think a lot of questions we get is it over? And I think it depends what you're measuring that on. So if we look at the altcoin market, it is still in an uptrend. Low, higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low. So we are technically in an uptrend on the weekly. Also, the 4-year cycle is broken. Don't let anybody tell you that the 4-year cycle is still intact. So if the 4-year cycle is broken, what is this thing that's broken? Ultimately, you've bought an asset and you just need to sell it once the time is right. Now, I believe that time is going to be the first half of 2026. Frustrated that it didn't happen in 2025. But ultimately, your job is to buy and sell, buy low, sell high. It doesn't really matter if it doesn't line up with your time. If you look at silver, for example, absolute ripped, but really it was sideways for 5 years? Yeah, 1700 days, trading kind of sideways in a bit of a range, and then boom, exploded higher. So if you called it quits in one of these drops here, 2024, you called it quits at $22, you miss out on this 4 or 5x rise. I think crypto is becoming much more tied to the macro world. Now that is very frustrating. But it also means that it's going to track global liquidity. When the alt season finally comes, it's going to be bigger than anyone's expecting because the amount of capital and the amount of debt and the amount of fiat money printing is just going to be insane. Somebody's saying big candle on Bitcoin. Yeah, I mean we've bounced from 87.4 to 89.6, 2k. So, I mean, I think you just need to buy assets, hold them, sell when the time's right. I think trying to time it, trying to put time frames on it, has kind of got everybody burnt across the market, and I think that means that this 4-year cycle theory is broken, but you can't predict that something's going to break until it breaks. Now that it is broken, you need to change your mindset from by X date the market's going to go wild and we're all going to sell. It's more like I hold these things, when they hit this price, I'm going to sell some. That's just the way. That's the way normal investing works. If you held Tesla stock, or let's pick something. If you hold, let's say, if you hold Google stock today, when do you sell? Do you sell in a year because you think in a year it's going top, or do you sell when it gets to $500 a share? Like, that's the way you have to think about investing in crypto these days, in my opinion. And it's a mindset shift. It makes it less easy to predict, but yeah, that's just life, unfortunately. Ethereum back, try to fight with $3,000. Be interested to see what the response is to this. There's a few news stories today. So David Sachs came out and said banks will go all in crypto once the market structure legislation passes. The reason for that is because most of the manipulation will be outlawed. This is the story about Japan that we've covered, and then metals. Somebody was asking about metals. Jordi Visser shares here. Elon's talking about silver. Silver's important in AI, solar, circuit breakers, data centers. Literally every single modern piece of equipment needs silver. So, yeah, might not want to buy right now because it is at a top, but if you have a 10, 15, 20 year time horizon, then I don't think there's a bad time to buy silver or gold. Scott's asking about the Clarity Act. So, yeah, basically, I don't really know why Coinbase flipped so violently on the Clarity Act, because Circle are still bullish on the Clarity Act, and if anything, it impacts stablecoin issuers more than Coinbase. For me, I think it's maybe like a bit of strong arming that Coinbase wants some more provisions in. A lot of the stuff that goes on in Washington's behind closed doors, so you never truly understand why Brian Armstrong's came out and opposed the bill. I think they'll do a deal. I think it'll be something to do with custody of Bitcoin or crypto assets. I think basically Coinbase wants everything. I think they're greedy. I think I wouldn't trust Coinbase with anything. I think Brian Armstrong wants to not have banks involved in crypto, because then Coinbase will be the place for US investors. So yeah, I think they will do a deal. In terms of concerns, I don't really have any concerns about it. The reason I don't have any concerns is because I don't actually care. All I want is regulation to be approved so that everybody understands the rules. So even if it's not the most positive thing in the world, as long as everybody knows the rules of crypto, understands them, and they're easy enough to implement, everybody can move forward. But right now, and in the past with Biden, the problem was nobody knew the rules. You only found out the rules once you broke them. You can't operate a business. You can't allocate trillions of dollars to an asset class when you don't know if in a year's time you're going to be arrested for doing what you thought was right. Some big moves in the altcoins, to be fair. I'm sure we'll learn what it is. Shiv's saying, yeah, I think LimeWire is a really good buy. I think Opulus is a good buy. I don't know what's happened to Casta. Take that off. Yeah, LimeWire, Opulus below a cent. Unreal. I think Borg is an insane buy just now. Yeah, hit that 22 cents earlier, bounced back up. I wonder if MD's still trading Borg. I know there was quite a few trading it when it dropped before. Hype, I think Hype's really cheap. I think Hype will do really well this cycle. I think Drift really cheap as well. There are some ones we don't really talk about. CRV, pretty much the market. Like, you could throw a dart at the market and pick something that's probably going to be higher in 3 months' time. Shiv's asking about super cycle. If the super cycle hits, how would you assess to not sell too early on the fibs? Yeah, I would target the upper fib, but I've said this before. I think you need to set a profit target. You need to have a goal in mind, and when you hit it, and get out of the market. I think try to time anything is going to be impossible. I'd rather sell and the market goes another 20-30% higher than ride it up and ride it back down, because there's no point. I think most of these altcoins are going to go to zero in the next bear market. I think once they top out, I think a lot of them don't have business models to sustain them long term. And then add in the competition on chain that's coming. I think by 2028, pretty much everything, stocks, bonds, crypto, commodities, metals, gold, silver, oil, everything will be on chain. You're not going to be buying ApeCoin or Elrond, which was, I think Elrond was like $500 at one point. It's now $6. Yeah, look at this, $550 to $6. Crazy. It's now called Multiverse as well, weirdly. So yeah, I would just set a target and stick to it. And if the market keeps ripping higher, just sit and chill in your profits. Eagle AI, yeah, I think Eagle AI is a great project. I think it's got some cool tech. I think their Claw product went live as well for trading. Not had a chance to look at it, to be honest. But yeah, very cool. I think it'll do really well. I think they've got some big institutions paying attention to it as well. Somebody asked a coin that we don't speak about a lot, but I think it's undervalued. I think SWI. I think, yeah, I mean, it did, what, 540? This was during the Solana run. I think it could go way beyond that. I think it could do like $9 to $11. Call it 9 from here. So what's that? To 6x from here. That'd be a nice bit of returns. And this is the thing. You could take low leverage positions and stuff like this, and just even if you are going to ride it down, like even if you just took 3x on a 6x, you do 18x on your money. That's just crazy money. Crazy opportunities in the market. Downside, of course, exists, but you know, altcoins could drop to their 10-10 wick. I'd still be bullish. I still think they're going to have a run. One of the negative reasons I think all altcoins will pump as well is because there's so many insiders and VCs that unlocked over the last 2 years, and because the market's not moved, they've not been able to sell. So they're going to pump the market so that they can get out of their positions. Ethereum, absolutely flying. So obviously something's happened somewhere. Up 3.5% in the last hour. It's not a bad move on Ethereum. Let me try and see if we have anything else. Here's another thing that I wanted to speak about. Is like, everyone keeps saying, oh, but the data suggests this, or oh, but what about a recession, or what about this, what about the stock market crashing? The stock market is 1.45% from all-time high. Dow Jones is 0.8% from all-time high. Nasdaq 3.5% from all-time high. Where's this stock market crash? Is crypto is violent because of liquidity. That's how I said at the start, it's tied to Japan. It's nothing to do with Greenland, because Greenland has no effect on global liquidity. Japan and their bond crisis has a massive impact on global liquidity. Crypto is correlated so tightly with global liquidity. That's why it's sold off. Nothing else is sold off. Metals are all-time high. Stock market's basically all-time high. Even the Russell 2000, all-time highs today. Small caps. So the hysteria that's generated on Twitter about stock market crashing and all that, it's just noise. Yeah, recession's not coming anytime soon. You're not going to get a recession when we're doing 4% GDP before the capex from Meta, Tesla, Microsoft, Google, Amazon even gets spent. They're going to invest billions this year. PMIs are going to go higher. That's why metals are running. The price of copper doesn't run into a recession. People use copper to build stuff. People don't build stuff if we're about to go into a recession. There's about to be a massive economic boom in the US. We'll probably see 7-8% GDP growth at some point this year. Yeah, there's no recession anytime soon. AI, I just don't see how we could get a recession when AI is literally driving profit margins higher every single day. Every single day that a company doesn't hire somebody, they use AI instead, they make more money than the day before. AI is going to swallow jobs this year. There's no recession coming. Yeah, I think dot can get to all-time high. Dan Max is saying Trump cancelled the EU tariffs. Yeah, it's probably... the only thing I would say is, if that is true, I've not seen it, I've not got live Twitter up, but if that is true, then I would be careful with this pump, because I don't believe this pump was anything to do with the tariffs. So if we're pumping on positive news about the tariffs, tells me that it's probably nothing to do with it. And anyone wants any evidence that there's not going to be a recession, go and read what Jensen Huang from Nvidia said at Davos today. He said that the biggest problem the world is facing is a lack of energy, a lack of hardware. Otherwise, AI should be running much faster, much more powerful than it is just now. You don't get a recession when there's a demand for stuff like that. So, I think I've made my point. Anyway, that's all for tonight. I remain hugely bullish. I think hopefully you got that from tonight's kind of stream. Stock market's all-time high. Crypto's allocated to liquidity. Japan is in meltdown mode. Probably going to collapse at some point in the next 10 years. But for now, they'll get bailed out. They will go back to money printing. They will go back to buying their own debt. Every government around the world will be buying their own debt by the end of 2026. And that tsunami of liquidity is coming for assets. If you had to allocate capital, where do you allocate it? Stock market's at all-time high. Tech stocks are all-time high. Metals are at all-time high. There's only one space that isn't at all-time highs, and that's crypto. And crypto's about to get positive regulation and massive moves in AI that's going to integrate with crypto. So if I was a capital allocator, it'd be crypto that I'd be looking at. People keep telling me you can't allocate crypto because of the volatility. Well, tech stocks are volatile, and crypto has been volatile forever, and smart money have allocated to it. So, alright, thanks very much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with a video. Fred Perry, your video is coming tomorrow on MicroStrategy and Sailor. And I'll be back next week with some more streams. Drop a like on the stream if you enjoyed it. If you want to ask any questions, you'll catch me in CC Pro. If you have any questions about your portfolio, about this year, if you're concerned about anything, you want to know about AI, you want to know about metals, you want to know about TradingView, how to take trades, how to send crypto, book a call with me. I will talk you through it. I've done loads of them and they are very enjoyable. I like to meet people, talk to them, understand their goals, set a plan. But yeah, if you have any questions, anything you want to know about, book a call with me and we can sit and chat and go through it. Make sure you're set up for what could be one of the best years in your investing career. Alright, I will speak to you all very soon.
Sometimes my arms can irritate. It's just a fear for you to break. Never here to complicate. Maybe someday it will come again. The breeze of life, like way back when. But for now, I understand. Dropping away.